So just last week, we had the opportunity to visit Beacon Farm in Frank Sound, and it was a real delight to see all of the both farming and community projects that they have going on. We had an opportunity to take a full tour of the farm, as well as to speak with Sandy, the manager there. Farming innovation is really important to the Cayman Islands, and I was glad to see a lot of it being deployed. So I hope that you enjoy this sit-down interview with Sandy as much as we did. It was such a pleasure to work with him. So good afternoon, folks. I'm here with Sandy at Beacon Farms, and I've had a little tour of the facility here. Lots of exciting things, I must say, that's happening at this farm located in Northside in Grand Cayman. And Sandy's going to take a moment to just share some of what is actually happening here at the farm from both the technological perspective, a little bit of social program here going on as well that he's going to fill us in and tell us all about. So Sandy, I was excited to get a bit of a history of where the farm began. So why don't we start there? Tell us the history of how you got where you are today.
Right. The farm was the idea of Bud Valinsky, who was the creator of the Bridge Foundation, which runs the halfway house in West Bay. And Bud, in fact, has only just been given a medal by the Queen, which is highly deserved, BEM, for his efforts in the creation of the Bridge Foundation, which basically takes care of addicts and alcoholics in recovery. And Bud, alongside the Howe Foundation, a family that have been on the Cayman Islands for 40 years, decided that it would be useful for those in recovery to have a location somewhere other than at the West Bay or Georgetown end of the island, that somewhere peaceful out in the country would probably serve a better purpose. And they came up with the idea of a farm. And subsequently they purchased Beacon Farms, which is 34 acres and is in Frank Sound. And the farm became its own charity, and then it became Beacon of Hope Cayman Limited, which is the charity that now runs the farm. Everybody who works on the farm is in recovery, and some of them come up from West Bay every day, others drive here, and you can also live on the farm. There are 5 bedrooms, and people can rent the room, live on the farm, or they can work somewhere else and live on the farm, as long as they're in the program, in the recovery program.
Right.
On the farm, we grow absolutely everything from sweet salt, sour salt, custard apple, jackfruit, pineapple, corn, all sorts of mango. We have a real coconut oil factory, and in which we produce virgin coconut oil, coconut flour, various types of fresh fruit drinks. We create lip balm, soaps, all for sale. That's one business that we have here. We also cater to tours from tourists, and we get, hopefully when the tourists really come back, we get tourists coming up here, and part of our master plan is to create paths and walkways and interesting areas for which people can come up and wander around the farm and see what we're doing. And most of all, of course, we grow crops, and to do that on this farm we had very little soil at the outset. So probably the only really original thing that we're doing is the creation of soil. And basically we have a machine behind a tractor that crushes rock, and we apply compost to that we create in a static aeration compost facility, which is the only one in the Caribbean. And the combination of the compost and the crushed rock is what we put out on our fields, and then the soil science starts to be developed from that point, and that's what we grow all of our crops in.
I think you're underselling yourself, Sandy, when you say probably the only unique thing you do is that soil production, because there's a lot of innovation that's happening here in the farm. So you're taking different components of, the recovery program with the addicts, and you're producing products. So you're taking, your crops, and the coconuts, and using all components of the coconut so that nothing really goes to waste. You're making jams. We just tasted some mango jam this morning. Soaps, lip balm. I mean, you've got a little bit of everything going on here. What is the one thing, if you had to pick out, and I know this is probably tough, you have to pick out a single component of what you do on the farm that is super exciting for you, what would you say that is?
It would be two things, really. The first one would be the fact that the farm serves a really important service to the community, and from a social aspect, it allows people who want to get their lives organized and want to move on and have suffered a great deal in the past. It gives them an opportunity to work in a place where they are surrounded by people who are like-minded. And I think that in this day and age, it's a really valuable asset for the country to have a place where people can come and work that have addiction issues. And then the second, which is not quite as interesting, but incredibly interesting, is the fact that these people are the people who are actually working in an innovative way in an industry that's always been a backwater, but because of supply chain issues and food shortages possibly in the near future, are doing all of this work. So it's a rounded project. It's an opportunity for people who probably would find it difficult at times to find work, and they first come into the program. It gives them an opportunity to develop and to do it in a subject and in an industry that we really should be focusing on as a country. So yeah, I've gone on a bit there.
That's okay. Tell our audience, I'm sure they're going to be interested in this aspect. When you talk about the fact that you make soil, what does that even mean? I mean, that sounds so sci-fi. Break that down for us a little bit.
Well, on our particular farm here, we're predominantly rock. And so when we came in and started looking at how we were going to grow crops in a commercial way, one of the difficulties would have been imagine spot planting in between the rock crevices and attempting to plant crops in a commercial manner. And in order to get over that, that's what we then decided we needed to actually create soil. And basic soil is pretty easy to produce. A combination of crushed rock, which is the inorganic matter, and the organic matter, which is the compost, applied together begin that journey for you. And if you look after the soil from then on, you have an acre of land as opposed to an acre with holes in it where you can plant. So there's a fundamental difference. And that's probably the only really clever thing that we discovered. So there's a little mouse in the corner of the room there. We then knew that we had to work out a way of crushing the rock economically, and we knew that in order to make it organic, we had to create compost in an economic manner, and that formed the basis of what to us is the most important component on the farm, and that's soil. We fundamentally believe in crop rotation, in canopy planting over the top, in organic pesticides. Having said that, we accept green waste and brown waste, landscape waste I'm talking about, from anybody on the island, and we have accepted and would probably start again pretty soon, pallets from Progressive, and shredded paper from K-Shred, and cardboard from to start with, the Fosters in Lower Valley. These combinations go into the static aeration compost facility, from which we create compost, which we then add to the rock that we've crushed and plow it in, and we create soil. We're hoping that the few things that we get right will be helpful to everybody, and we're also hoping that the things that we get wrong are helpful to everybody. And we are interested in sharing absolutely everything that we do with anybody who's interested in farming. We're not interested in working in a silo on our own. We want to share all of the information that we manage to put together that's of any use with the rest of the community.
Now, during the tour, just keeping on the topic of soil, you were talking about how hopefully in the near future you're going to be offering a service to other farmers whereby you can come in and essentially do an assessment of their farming landscape and potentially even help them by giving them the soil. You can lay out a plan of action and how they can become better at farming their particular crops. Tell us a little bit about how that would work.
Well, we're still in the research and development stage right now ourselves, but the general objective would be that we would if a farmer, say for example, had a piece of land, an acre or 2 acres, that was predominantly rock, we would come in and give them what we would call our Beacon Farms farming service. And we would come in, inspect the land, and rock crush the acre or the 2 acres. And we would then assist with the production of compost to create the soil. If necessary, we would, if they wished us to, we could also advise on quality of the soil, any amendments that are needed to increase the nutrients, or depending on the sort of crop that the farmer was deciding on what he was going to plant. We could assist with the planting itself, the harvesting, and the sale of the crop, if they wanted. But predominantly, to start with, we're more than happy to come in for a very, very reasonable amount of money and plow an acre of land that would normally be spot planted. And people know what I mean by spot planting. It's where we've had to unfortunately leave the rock in place in different areas of the field. And so we would clear it so that it would look like the fields that you saw here on the farm today, which are fields that you would see in Jamaica or the Dominican Republic, a full acre of soil. So.
All right, very interesting. How important is technology for you here in the farm? I think that a lot of maybe some young people are watching this or listening to this and they're thinking, oh, farming is so antiquated. We've been doing it for thousands of years. What new is there? So tell us a little bit about innovation in farming.
Well, innovation if you only have 24 miles or 23 miles by 12 miles wide, and you have a growing population that you need to feed, and the volume of land that you can use for agriculture is diminishing, quite naturally, you need to maximize what you can get out of the land space. And that takes me to a place where I think of, and I use the term only on the farm really, but I call it agricultural literacy, which is the development of the different disciplines that sit inside agriculture per se. So at the one end of it, you would have traditional farming where you require an acre of land, you develop the soil, you plant the plants that you require, etc., etc. Then at the other extreme, you're looking at high technology, internal farming such as hydroponics, aquaponics, and even aeroponics. And these require a tiny amount of land in comparison, and are areas that would probably help the country generally during, for example, our hurricane season, where the chances of losing your crops increases, the percentage increases. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question, neatly, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, okay. All right, so again on the tour we saw that there are some areas that you have some sort of smaller plants, almost like a little nursery, where you're beginning to do some particular crops. What sort of expansion are you looking at for types of produce?
Well, we have what we call our research gardens, and these are areas where we take crops from the region that we're not too sure that we can grow, first of all, and we develop them in small quantities so that we can then determine, A, we can actually grow them, B, is there a market for them on the island? Will people purchase them? And then once we've determined that, they can then go into the general farming program. So they would go out into the fields and we would develop them from there.
Right.
We've only been actually truly working the farm for 2.5 years. So everything you saw today is only 2.5 years old. We've got a long, long way to go.
Very nice. All right, well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the tour today. It was really quite nice. And good luck. I mean, I think you, like you said, you're in many respects in the infancy of a lot of the things that you have on your whiteboard that you're planning on rolling out. So we will definitely be keeping our audience abreast of your successes and how things are going. I'm going to steal from Phantom Anderson's latest mantra, no silent victories. So letting people know all the positivity that's happening in this community, I think, is really, really important. So thank you, Sandy, from Beacon Farms, and thank you to, there's lots of other people in the background who are a bit camera shy.
Yeah.
So Sandy is but one face, but there are lots of hands on deck.
The most
here.
unimportant face, actually, really. So.
Yeah, lots of hands on deck here, folks, that are making this project a success. So good luck to you, Sandy, and thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
So nice.